It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. What exactly is storyboarding? Now, we all know that this is part of the discovery process. So if we have ideation, discovery, delivery, and release, this is all part of discovery. But if I truly had to break down what storyboarding is and how it impacts Agile, I would go back to just a clear definition of how it's used, what happens during storyboarding, and that way it helps you really understand why it's a valuable tool. Now, the term storyboarding most commonly comes from the production of media, whether it's films, film production. Pixar uses it quite a bit. I know Lucasfilm uses it as well. And in the example, I guess I'll just give you a definition first. Let's do that. So, storyboarding in product management is a visual and narrative technique used to outline and communicate the user's experience and functionality of a product or feature and how it interacts. It involves creating a sequence of illustrations, often accompanied by short descriptions and user interactions, to depict how a user will interact with your product or service step by step. Storyboarding is a valuable tool for product managers to communicate their vision, gather feedback, and ensure alignment with cross functional teams, designers, developers, stakeholders, and other folks. So, there are some steps that you should follow to make sure you get this right. And I'm going to break it down into probably 6 to 8 steps just to make sure that we get this right and we don't leave anything out. So, here we go. So, right out of the gate, I'm going to start with idea visualization because I think sometimes product managers assume that we can see the picture in their mind. And unfortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth. So, when it comes to idea visualization, storyboarding helps the product manager transform his or her abstract ideas or concepts into something tangible that can be visually represented. It provides a clear and accessible way to convey what features are and how they should function. So even though it's not perfect and it's usually high level, it still gives us some, oh, now I get what they were thinking kind of messaging, right? It helps us get our head around what we were trying to do. And that goes directly into or ties directly into what I'm going to call number two, which is understanding the user journey. So, storyboards typically focus on a user's journey or experience with a product or service. They illustrate the steps someone might take to accomplish a specific task or goal within a product. The one I use a lot in class is someone wants to transfer money from their savings account to their checking account to pay their bills online. They have to log into their account. They have to access the accounts. They have to access the transfer function. I think you see where I'm going with this, right? It's just how many steps does it take and how is that user's journey measured? How long do they spend in each step? What are some of the things they do? And is there any way we can optimize what's going on with regard to the user journey? So it's very important that we start out with that visualization and tie straight back into the user journey. Okay, let's go to number three. Number three, I'm going to call communication. So, product managers use storyboards to communicate their vision to various stakeholders. And those stakeholders could include designers, developers, marketing teams, executives, or even external stakeholders from time to time. It often bridges the gap between some of the technical details and the high level concepts of what we're trying to achieve. So, when I say that product owners and product managers are the ultimate line of communication, when I say they are the facilitators, this is what I mean by that, right? And that leads me to number four, gathering clear and concise feedback and collaboration. So, storyboarding encourages collaboration and feedback. So, cross functional teams provide input and suggestions, leading to a more refined and well rounded product concept of what we're going to build to achieve that MVP. So, when it's not clear, sometimes that feedback and collaboration mechanism is what gets us the clarity that we need in order to make sure we're building the right thing. And that brings us to number five, which is alignment. So, storyboards help ensure that everyone involved in a product development process has a shared understanding of what the user experience is supposed to be and the product requirements to help us meet that experience. It aids in aligning the team's efforts towards the common goal of a better outcome, right? So, if we're trying to achieve a better outcome, we need to make sure we have that alignment, and storyboards are the mechanism or tool that are going to help us get there. That leads me to number six, which is a user centric design. So we need to make sure we're always, always, always focusing on outcome and not output. By focusing on a user's perspective, storyboarding reinforces a user centric approach to product development. It helps in designing products or services that best meet the user's needs and expectations in a clear and concise way, right? Then, number seven, this is one that many people forget about: validation. Storyboards can be used to validate product concepts with potential users or target customers. By presenting a visual narrative of what you're trying to do, a product manager can gather early feedback and pivot and make adjustments where needed. I think too often we forget that we can leverage this part to get to the MVP instead of using this part only in delivery. And then finally, step eight, I'm going to call iterations. So storyboards should never be set in stone. And you know how frequently I use the word never. I should say infrequently. It's a rare occurrence. But I'll say that one more time. Storyboards are not set in stone, ever. They can be iterated upon and refined as a product concept evolves, or based on feedback we receive from customers as we're going through, or based on new needs that arise as part of the assessment, or based on discovery of new things as we go. The storyboard should never be locked in place. But it's definitely useful. And I'm going to argue that it's useful mostly in the discovery phase. Now, the thing that's interesting is many organizations bypass the discovery phase because they lend all the credibility to a subject matter expert, saying the subject matter expert should know how to do this, when in actuality, it's more important to gain this clarification to make sure the subject matter expert's on the right page, as opposed to trying to do it all on your own and just not, making assumptions. We all know what happens when we assume, right? Assumptions just aren't ever going to get you to where you need to be. The question becomes, have you clearly identified your persona? Do you understand their needs? Do you understand strategically what direction a company or organization is trying to go and how your product or service is going to impact that direction? And finally, do you understand how building this product or service in a certain way is going to technically put you in a position moving forward that you aren't going to dig yourself into a hole of debt, that you're going to be able to clearly and continually improve on what you build so that you can have a high quality product or service in the end. So that's going to do it. I hope this episode on storyboarding hit home. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.